house is it?
Air 1, go ahead.
Sheriff's office, if you're inside, you need to announce yourself now.
These cops were about to enter a crime scene where the killer thought he planned the perfect murder. On February 27, 2018, the news of the death of Patrick De La Cerda traveled fast through the quiet town of Deltona, Florida. The 25-year-old Florida man had been living his best life with plans of marrying the woman of his dreams soon. However, his fairy tale lifestyle and his future dreams were cut short when he was savagely shot to death on a cold February day.
911, where's your emergency?
My boyfriend's son has been shot and killed.
You don't want to try CPR, correct?
No, he's dead. He's cold.
As the investigation began, they feared the culprit had committed the perfect crime and that the case would eventually turn cold.
I'm making a phone call. I'm giving instructions. And I'm going to have my plan put into action.
It was like a plan.
What kind of plan? Like a plan to do what?
I guess to kill
To kill who?
Patrick.
As the investigation proceeded, more chilling twists and turns started to emerge, leading to the involvement of a number of people in this horrific crime.
It doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense.
Patrick De La Cerda was born in 1992 in Miami, Florida. His father, Max De La Cerda, was born and raised in Spain, while his mother, Patricia Ronzi, was born and spent most of her childhood in France. Eventually, the couple got married in the late 80s and moved to the United States, where they later welcomed their beloved son, Patrick, to the family.
We were in a big yard, plenty of pets and animals and things to entertain ourselves with. Girls in the garden exploring, looking for bugs and animals and snakes and reptiles.
Patrick's father worked in construction and was a specialist in his field. Still, the family wasn't considered to be rich, but had a decent living condition in the big city of Miami. After Patrick graduated high school, he decided to follow his father's footsteps into the field of construction. He continued with his studies as well and even enrolled in a reputed university. After 25 years of happy marriage, Patrick's parents announced they were getting a divorce while he was still in university. The divorce was, however, quite amicable. Patrick's mother, Patricia, decided to move to Deltona, Florida, where she soon remarried. Patrick, however, decided to stick by his father's side and continue working in the construction field together. The father and son were respected by everyone in Miami and were even sought-after professionals in the construction industry. Despite the divorce of the parents, the family still remained close. They were on friendly terms, staying in touch with each other, calling and communicating regularly, and were always ready to help each other whenever needed. Patrick paid regular visits to his mother in Deltona and would tell her everything that was happening in his life, sharing with her all his joys and experiences. Patrick was an extremely attractive young man and received a lot of attention from the opposite sex. However, being brought up in a household where love and respect were valued attributes, Patrick never settled for fleeting affairs or casual flings. From the very beginning, Patrick hoped to find a girl whom he could date with the intention of marriage and starting a family. Fortunately for him, Patrick did meet the girl of his dreams on a casual dating app. He'd registered his name and profile on the dating site somewhat unwillingly after being hounded by a friend to join. One warm evening in July 2017, bored, Patrick decided to surf through the profiles of the girls on the app. While casually clicking through profiles, a beautiful brunette caught his attention. She had big eyes and a cheerful smile that completely enchanted Patrick. He decided to start a conversation with the stranger in hopes of building something more in the future. The woman replied to his text, and an easygoing conversation followed. The woman's name was Jessica Devnani. She was born in 1988 in the city of Orlando, located in the central part of Florida. After graduating from high school, she enrolled in a local university where she studied banking. She got a job at a bank branch in Orlando after graduation and started working there. Jessica was also smitten by Patrick and would constantly text him through the app for days before deciding to exchange numbers. Then they'd call each other every evening to casually talk about their day. The couple soon developed a sense of mutual admiration and trust and planned to meet each other in real life. The problem was that they lived in different parts of the state of Florida. In the end, they decided to choose a location that was halfway between the two. On their very first date, Patrick realized that Jessica was indeed the girl for him. Right then, he began planning a future with her in it. Jessica, although 4 years older than Patrick, was also completely smitten with him. As he returned back home, Patrick decided to call his mother to let her know that he'd found the girl of his dreams. They conversed for a while, and Patricia was really happy for her son. Patrick and Jessica's long-distance relationship continued for several months. The couple would rent a hotel room and stay with each other on the weekends while talking on the phone for hours on weekdays. Their relationship grew deeper, and finally, Patrick decided to take his next step. Patrick, desperate to live together with Jessica, decided to move to Deltona in December 2017. He bought a house near his mother's place and began preparing to welcome Jessica, although she couldn't leave work immediately to move in with them at first. On the eve of the new year, Jessica came to stay the night with Patrick in his house. Patrick had prepared fireworks for her in his backyard, and as she sat admiring the sparkles in the sky, Patrick got down on one knee and pulled out a ring. He asked her if she'd be his wife, and she immediately said yes.
Just popped the question, and he's like, "Will you marry me?" And I was like, "Yes, of course." I wasn't expecting it.
Patrick told her that he'd searched and searched for the perfect ring for her, but had no luck. So he'd ordered a custom ring from the jewelry workshop, an exclusive ring which he designed himself. 2 months had passed since the proposal, and the preparation for the wedding, along with a housewarming party to be held in the spring of 2018, had started in both the families. They decided to hold the grand wedding party either in Miami, along the shores of the Atlantic Ocean, or in Deltona at Patrick's mother's place. Everyone was happy, especially Patrick and Jessica. They were both looking forward to their future together, but fate had other plans. February 26, 2018 was a normal day like any other. Patrick had called Jessica that night before going to bed, promising to call her later the next day, but unfortunately, he never did. On February 27, 2018, Max De La Cerda, Patrick's father, got a call from a courier that he had a parcel for Patrick, but no one was opening the door. He added that Max's number was given as an additional contact number since Patrick wasn't picking up his phone. He felt as if something wasn't quite right, but since he was at work and couldn't go to check on his son or pick up the parcel, he decided to call Jessica. When Jessica told Max that she'd been trying her son's phone since the morning but got no response, Max immediately knew that something was wrong. He told Jessica to go check up on him, so she dropped everything that she was doing and rushed to Patrick's house. When Jessica reached the house, she saw Patrick's car in the driveway, which meant that he must still be in the house. Pulling out the spare key, Jessica began calling out to Patrick but got no response. When she opened the front door, she was met with a horrifying sight. Patrick's body was lying near the entrance in a pool of his own blood. Jessica immediately called the police and Patrick's parents.
911, where's your emergency?
My boyfriend's son has been shot and killed.
When did that happen?
I don't know.
You don't want to try CPR, correct?
No, he's dead. He's cold.
Whose house is it? Sheriff's office, if you're inside, you need to announce yourself now.
There's not supposed to be anybody here or anything.
Williams County Sheriff's Office, if you're inside, announce yourself.
All right, go ahead. Nice and slow. This building is secure. Are there any others that we need to clear? Start getting statements from the two initial victims. I know you're going to be doing crime scene.
When police arrived at the scene, they saw Patrick's body lying lifeless with 4 gunshot wounds in his body. When the case reached the media, the people of Deltona followed the case closely. Deltona wasn't accustomed to a lot of violent crimes as opposed to other cities in Florida. Thus, the case sparked interest among the residents. After investigating the crime scene, detectives were assured that this act was committed solely for the purpose of murdering Patrick. There were no valuable items missing, which ruled out the chances of burglary. An accidental shooting was also ruled out, since Patrick's body had a number of bruises which were obtained when he fell from the stairs leading to the second floor. Police believed that the killer was lying in wait for him on the second story. When Patrick went upstairs, the killer shot him in his thigh, causing him to fall down the stairs. Then the perpetrator proceeded to shoot him in the chest and twice in his head, killing him. The murder weapon wasn't found at the crime scene, but ballistic reports confirmed that it was a rather rare model of pistol that was not easy to obtain. The first shell casing was found on the second floor, while 2 other shell casings were found downstairs. However, the 4th shell casing was missing. Investigators wondered if the perpetrator had taken the last casing as a trophy after the plan was successful. Unfortunately, there was very little evidence that might lead them to the culprit. Investigators first decided to question Patrick's neighbor, with whom he had a serious conflict a couple of weeks prior to the murder.
Ahoy! Ahoy, neighbor!
The neighbor was a combat participant and a veteran of the U.S. Army. He was wounded and severely concussed in the war, which led him to developing a mental disorder. Moreover, he was excellent with firearms and could have easily purchased this rare model of a gun. In December of 2017, the veteran mistook Patrick for a burglar and opened fire. Fortunately, no one was harmed, and the neighbor was hospitalized at a psychiatric hospital afterward because his mental health had further deteriorated. After he returned back home from the hospital, he would consistently follow Patrick around and call him a spy. The neighbor could indeed have a motive to murder Patrick due to his unhealthy imaginations of Patrick being his rival. The man truthfully confessed his hatred for Patrick, but also added that the day Patrick was murdered, he wasn't present at his home, which was later confirmed by multiple other people. Thus, the police had to let him go. Having no other clues to proceed further, detectives decided to go through everything that they'd gathered while investigating the crime scene. They discovered that the hard disks that recorded the CCTV footage were missing. Without a single shred of physical evidence, be it fingerprints, shoe prints, or DNA, investigators realized that the murder was premeditated and carried out perfectly, thus fearing that the case would eventually turn cold. Detectives, however, did not give up. Next, they questioned Jessica, and to their surprise, Jessica immediately told them that she knew who had murdered her fiance.
He called you this morning?
Yeah, on my work phone because he's not allowed to call me, so I got scared. That's when I texted Patrick.
When investigators asked who she had in mind, Jessica replied that it was Gregory Bender, an ex who never left her life and always shadowed her wherever she went. Before Jessica met Patrick through the dating app, she was in a relationship with a man named Gregory Bender. Gregory was a wealthy businessman who owned his own investment fund. He'd first met Jessica when she was still in school. He was 20 years older than her, but keeping this difference aside, Gregory would always spoil her with expensive gifts and take her to fancy resorts and vacation spots. Jessica was totally enamored with this wealthy man at first. However, Jessica soon noticed odd behaviors from her lover. Gregory began to try to control whatever activity Jessica did in her day-to-day life and would even stalk and follow her wherever she went. He'd keep track of all the people she'd talk to, and if Jessica happened to have an admirer, he'd immediately get rid of them through threats and other forms of intimidation. However, when it came to Gregory himself, he'd share nothing about his personal life with Jessica. The relationship lasted for 8 years, but during this period, Gregory never introduced Jessica to his family or friends. They'd only meet, spend time together, or go for vacation whenever Gregory felt like it, and Jessica would never have a say in anything. Gregory would also never invite Jessica to his house, arguing that he was busy every time she brought it up. Jessica told him that she wanted to get married and start a family, and she'd break off this relationship if Gregory didn't have the same wishes. In response, Gregory gave her a ring, promising to marry her soon, but no plans were made after that. A huge twist was awaiting Jessica. One day, Gregory had a car accident and ended up being admitted to the hospital. When Jessica heard about the wreck, she immediately went to check up on him. While driving past his house toward the hospital, she saw that someone was home. She thought that his parents might be there and decided to stop by and grab some clothes and other necessities that Gregory might need while staying at the hospital. When she rang the bell, however, she came face to face with a woman she'd never seen before. When she asked her who she was, instead of replying, a woman asked her the same question. Baffled, Jessica showed her the ring that Gregory gave her, saying that she was his fiance. The woman laughed and told her that she was mistaken because she was Gregory's wife, Damara Sanchez Bender.
Kind of shocked. I kind of showed her my ring. I'm his fiance. And she's like, well, I'm his wife. And she showed me her ring. And I was like, what?
After discovering Gregory's secret, Jessica ended things with Gregory, who'd been lying to her for more than 8 years. However, Gregory was not ready to let Jessica go. He desperately begged and pleaded with her, saying that he'd divorce his wife and marry her instead. Jessica decided to give him one last chance, but when nothing changed, she ended things completely. Tired of being treated as a mistress to a married man, Jessica longed for true love that finally landed when she met Patrick. When she and Patrick began their relationship, she told Gregory to never contact her again. Gregory, however, had different plans. At first, Gregory tried to plead his way with Jessica, promising her once again that he'd divorce his wife and marry her. But when Jessica didn't comply, his behavior started getting more aggressive. He'd often leave threatening texts and harass her. When nothing was working, Gregory decided to cross yet another line. He hired professionals to hack into Jessica's account in order to check on who she was communicating with. That's when they came across Patrick De La Cerda, who at that time knew nothing about this man. Gregory had also wanted to meet up with Jessica one last time. She agreed, thinking it would be a casual meetup, but after sitting down with him in the restaurant, Gregory kept touching her hands and thighs. Jessica, upset by this behavior, got up and left. Apparently, Gregory had hired a professional to take videos of them in secret while setting up the meeting with Jessica. Later, videos of them were sent to Patrick, which resulted in the couple's breakup. Soon, however, they reconciled, and Gregory realized he had to figure out a different plan. He decided to choose Patrick as his target.
He would message me saying if I didn't leave Patrick, he would harm Patrick.
After completing his background check and obtaining his number, Gregory started to send threats to Patrick as well. He was trying to force him to break up with Jessica and stop calling her his fiancée. Patrick, however, did not react at all to the threats. He believed it would all cool down once he realized that he was not going to get Jessica back and needed to move on without her.
No worries, baby. Don't stress about it. It's no big deal. I'm not going anywhere. There's nothing else he can do.
Jessica, on the other hand, was terrified because she knew that Gregory was rich and had loads of connections. He also had a huge collection of firearms in his house. Jessica even suggested to Patrick that he should break up with her in order to not escalate things, but Patrick didn't want to do that. Instead, the couple decided to go to the police with evidence that Gregory was stalking and harassing them. They obtained a restraining order against Gregory, and he also had to surrender all his firearms that he had in his house. Things seemed to calm down after that, and the couple went about their daily lives as normal. But Jessica was not convinced and begged Patrick to install CCTV cameras in their house, which he did. In the meantime, the couple happily distracted themselves from the terrible events by preparing for their upcoming wedding. Jessica was looking forward to marrying Patrick, especially after years of lies and heartbreak when she was with Gregory. Yet, when she got a call from Max on February 27, 2018, everything came crashing down all at once. The police couldn't just arrest Gregory, and there was no evidence. Having run out of clues or leads to follow up on, investigators had little to go on. That is, until they received a call from Damara Sanchez Bender, Gregory's wife, saying that she had important information to share regarding the case.
I read something about getting close, driving in the car, getting over there, or sees how many cars are. It was like a plan.
What kind of plan? Like a plan to do what?
I guess to kill
To kill who?
Patrick.
What did it say?
Something about go there. I need to remember the clothes. see how many cars are there, take the cell phone and stuff like that.
Okay.
I confront him and I asked him, and he said it was a fantasy.
Damara, who was planning on divorcing Gregory, told detectives that just a few days before the murder, she'd seen a strange notebook on her husband's desk in his office. When she peeked into it, she saw a detailed plan of a stranger's house, along with notes above the diagram. She didn't pay much attention to it at first. However, a few days later, when she saw the news of Patrick's murder along with a picture of his house, she decided to call the police. This gave enough probable cause for the police to check Gregory's house thoroughly. As they were investigating the office room, they found the notebook that Damara had described. However, the pages with a plan written on it were torn out. Fortunately, the police found those very pages inside the trash can lying next to the table. Apparently, Gregory was confident that his house would never be investigated since there was no evidence against him, and perhaps didn't bother to get rid of the papers. While examining the papers, investigators saw the detailed and thought-out plan that Gregory had made. He'd been preparing for a couple of months in order to perfectly carry out the crime. He even wrote down notes reminding himself to turn off his phone, use gloves, and lubricate the soles of his shoes in order to not leave any evidence behind. From the records in his notebook, it became clear that Gregory knew everything about his victim and had been following him for months. He knew the exact time that Patrick came back home and the presence of CCTV cameras in and around the house. He also made sure to dispose of the murder weapon, the clothes, and other items that might lead the police to him, taking care of every minute detail in order to execute the perfect crime. Unfortunately for him, his wife's curiosity finally led the investigators right to him. In addition to the notebook, the fourth shell casing was found on his table inside a cigar box. Forensics confirmed that it was the exact same shell casing from the crime scene. There were also strange voice recordings that were retrieved from Gregory's phone, which further proved that he was, indeed, planning to murder his ex-fiance's lover, Patrick De La Cerda.
I'm making a phone call. I'm giving instructions, and I'm going to have my plan put into action. Call me back and talk to me, or else I'm going to just let it happen.
Thus, Gregory Bender was arrested for murdering Patrick De La Cerda as he awaited his trial in court. Before Gregory Bender's sentencing, Jessica Devnani stood before the court about 10 feet away from Gregory to speak about the life that she'd planned with Patrick.
You will not win. You have only lost. I hope you feel some peace, Patrick. Rest assured, the man who took your life is going to pay with his own life now.
Gregory Bender was found guilty on Friday, May 28, 2021, of first-degree murder for killing 25-year-old Patrick De La Cerda in 2018. Circuit Judge Don Nichols sentenced Gregory, aged 53, to life in prison without parole after the trial at the Volusia County Courthouse in DeLand. Gregory Bender did not testify during the trial and did not show any emotion upon hearing the guilty verdict or sentence. Even though justice was finally served, the loss of such a kind-hearted and loving man broke hearts of all the people that knew Patrick. Jessica, who received the custom-made ring from Patrick's parents, wore it every day as a remembrance of the wedding that never took place. Today's case was truly disturbing and heartbreaking. So now we ask you, do you think this case would have turned cold if Gregory's wife hadn't come forward to report the strange notebook? Let us know in the comment section below. And if you found today's video interesting, please consider subscribing to our channel, hit that like button, and share our videos. Also, if you have any crime story that you'd like us to cover, leave us a message below. Until next time.